angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
Some of the anger and hostility that we've seen manifest in America's political scene over the last year or so may actually have been set in motion by the system created by the founders of this country. Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Today, a special web-exclusive broadcast as we talk with the author of the brand new book, Saboteurs, Skywatch TV CEO Tom Horn.
Tom, be with you.
Joining me on the panel, the host of Into the Multiverse, another web exclusive from Skywatch TV, and author of the forthcoming book with me, The Day the Earth Stands Still, Josh Peck.
Thanks for having me back.
And the author of the Red Wing Saga, Book 1, Blood Lies, Book 2, Blood Rights, my best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie pie.
We're looking at the supernatural forces behind the political conflict that we've had here in the United States. In Saboteurs, and then in other books Defender Publishing has just released by Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, The Deeper State, and Carl Gallup's Gods and Thrones, it's pretty clear that there are forces behind the scenes that are really pushing and manipulating the human actors, and what has resulted is the most remarkable political situation we've seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, you know, it's an occult tenet, the idea ordo ab chaos, right? Order out of chaos. And of course, a lot of people that study dialectics understand that, you know, what the government wants to do is own you. They accuse the left of this right now, that they want people to be dependent upon them. That's why they want to give them free stuff, because they then become dependent upon them. I would argue that probably both sides of our you know, modern day American government are operating in that way. But this actually did begin with earlier concepts, including those of the Freemasons that out of Europe, the idea that you perpetuate war or something else to make people dependent upon you, right? And this is one of the things I noticed in writing the book Saboteurs, that in doing research, most Americans really are unfamiliar with the earliest developments of this country, you know, who the founders were, what they really believed. We hear this over and over again, even by some Christian writers talking about, you know, how the founders of the country were Christians that were committed to establishing a Christian nation. And that's statistically untrue. I've said this on another program that I thank God we became a Christian nation, at least for a long time, committed to a lot of great Christian ethics and ideas. Even our, you know, our highest universities, most of them, law schools, most of them based on, you know, the ethos of Scripture.
Schools like Harvard that are very liberal today were founded to train preachers of the gospel.
Yes.
That's right, yeah. And so I'm glad that happened. I think that preserved America, and certainly one thing that's represented in the Trump administration is this recommitment to Israel. And I think these are all good things, but obviously there are people that are hostile to those ideas, right? They not only hate Israel, they hate God. They hate the idea of Christianity, and that's why you see growing persecution in our country today. But from the occultic aspect of it, in the book Saboteurs, that's what I'm talking about. I go into the 44 founders, you know, of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, and how they were really committed to Francis Bacon's idea of a new Atlantis. And people don't have to take my word for it. They can read Manly P. Hall, they can read Albert Pike, they can read all of the great writers that were at one time publishing books that were only meant for the eyes of the Freemasons to have access to those, to even be able to read them right. But how they were committed to this scheme the New Atlantis, the idea that, and Manly P. Hall writes quite a bit about this in The Secret Destiny of America. He talks about how the gods of Atlantis, when they were honored by mankind, right? Mankind flourished beneath the pagan gods. When man began to turn their back on the ancient gods and to forget the ancient gods and to forget the ancient ways, they fell into displeasure. Atlantis sinks beneath the ocean. So his idea was writing a novel, but that behind that novel, it was really a worldview. In fact, Sharon's new novels, Blood Rights and Blood Lies. Behind that, though, is true historic supernaturalism.
Absolutely. It's all about spiritual warfare. And it's funny that you bring up the idea of the New Atlantis and the founding of America, because recently on Fox TV, the show just ended, but for 3 seasons we watched Sleepy Hollow and watched Ichabod Crane prove that the Freemasons and witches were the real founders of America.
But they were the good guys.
At what point in history, when you and I were kids, would a show like that have gotten off the ground?
Right.
Now it's all over the place, and that's what our kids are being taught. That somehow white magic is what founded the United States, and it's good.
Right.
Now, how does that get reflected in things like the Constitution and Bill of Rights and everything? Because, when we look at those, they seem Christian in nature. We have the right to freedom of speech, bear arms so we can protect ourselves. It seems... somebody would think that those seem like Christian values. How did things like that happen?
Well, again, the New Atlantis was an idea of a special kind of democracy that would certainly protect the rights of people to free speech. And don't forget that most of these founders, the Freemasons, were also deists.
Right.
The idea that there was a creator at one point and he made everything and then he just moved on, right? He doesn't interact with us anymore. There's nothing personal about it. But that design is in the cosmos, and that there was a creator who made everything and then set it into motion. But some of the Freemasons also had ideas that were born out of Rosicrucianism. And of course, if you read, like George Washington's own pastor talked about him like a sly fox, right?
Right.
Knowing that to have the political goodwill of the population, many of whom were Christians, you had to speak their language, you had to be nice to them, right? You had to do those things. And I don't think by the way, not all 44 Freemasons were dedicated to an occult idea. It just happened to be what was popular at the time. It was coming out of Europe, right? In the former program, you talked about Helena Blavatsky. Those were popular ideas at the time. They were they were going crazy with this new kind of spirituality, right?
Yeah. So is it that what we're dealing with now between the right and the left, or really maybe not even that, but to say that the Christians and the non-Christians in value in America, is that born from things they were dealing with back at the founding of the country?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I mean, if it was, we have Freemasons, but they also have to kind of deal with the Christians that were there too. So there was a little bit of the back and forth there. Is that why we're dealing with the animosity now?
Look, I would say that to some extent the Freemasons have an appreciation for a lot of the ideas that are historically related to Christianity. If you go into the House of the Temple, the headquarters of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry, in Washington, D.C., and you go up into the temple room on the 3rd floor, there's a great big altar there. And it's got all these different holy books. It's got the Quran, but it's also got the Bible. So it's the way they would put all of that together is that within religion, there are a lot of great ideas to aspire to. It makes us better people. But we as Christians believe that there's a certain exclusivity to salvation, right? And there's not many roads. That's a Freemason idea. That's a New Age idea. But there were the hardcore Freemasons, and they were the ones that insisted on even the way the capital city was laid out. Was based on an Atlantean plan that was also connected to the Cumaean Sibyl, the most powerful of Apollo's Sibyls, who had predicted that at the end of times, the Greeks believed in the 4 cycles, the Iron Age, the Silver Age, but the Iron Age is going to cease and give birth to a new golden pagan age when Apollo returns to the earth. Well, that's the prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States. And the interesting thing about the way they did this was they blended Greek and Egyptian beliefs. And you can find in history where there are scholars who say that the Egyptians created the god Osiris. The Greeks borrowed from some of those ideas and incorporated it into the god Apollo, right? And that's why if you look at the Great Seal, the symbolism is all Egyptian, the uncapped pyramid, the all-seeing eye, all that. But the mottos are in Greek and from the prophecies of the return of Apollo.
Right.
So that's the two-headed eagle. It's the blending of these two ideas, but they're both talking about the same entity.
The idea of successive kingdoms, that we have the golden age that gives rise to the silver, the bronze, and on down to the iron, and sort of an iron mixed with clay. That's also biblical in scope. But I would say this idea of order out of chaos, it's a return of the chaos dragon.
Yeah.
Which
Now
you
there's
write
a whole
about
other
a
there's a whole
lot.
other big topic.
You cannot
Yeah.
get to the golden age unless the chaos dragon rises again.
Because you've got to destroy the Iron Age in order to bring back the Golden Age, and that again to the Cumaean Sibyl, the translation by Virgil, I think it was, the Latin poet, said that wrote that it returns old Saturn's reign.
Right.
Yes.
Saturn was the Roman form of the Greek god Kronos, who, according to the Greek poet Hesiod, who wrote like in the 7th century BC. We get a lot of what we know about Greek mythology from Hesiod, and that was the Golden Age when the men of the Golden Age, and the Greek phrase was meropes anthropoi, were who lived. They were the heroes of that age, and from them, when they died, came the spirits called the daemons, demons. Except that in the Greek religion, Greek cosmology, they were helpful spirits who aided and abetted mankind and helped us to thrive and heal diseases and all sorts of other things. It was a total reversal of Jewish, or, well, biblical cosmology, let's put it that way, where the men of the Golden Age, ruled over by Kronos, king of the Titans, who was punished by being sent to Tartarus, like the angels who sinned in 2 Peter 2:4, those were the Nephilim. So what they're trying to bring back, or what the Cumaean Sibyl, and then those who are trying to make that prophecy, fulfill that prophecy, are trying to do is bring back the age of the Nephilim.
They're trying to open the abyss.
And bring back the Watchers, who are Dr. Michael Heiser would argue that the Watchers are what come out of the abyss in Revelation 9:11.
Right. Well, and again, the Cumaean Sibyl's prophecy that's, encodified here on our Great Seal, she refers to that age when gods and men will be commingled.
Right.
Again, right? This is exactly what the Watchers did.
Right, Return of the Nephilim. It's astonishing that there's such the pieces between Greek mythology and biblical theology fit together so well. And secular scholars have picked up on these pieces. I wrote about it in The Great Inception, a scholar from Estonia named Amar Anus, who traced the etymology of this meropes anthropoi and found out that, well, that's where that comes from the same root word as the biblical name, the Rephaim, who were the shades who rise up to greet Lucifer when he's kicked out of Eden. Right. The kings of old. They are the Nephilim. The Rephaim are the Nephilim.
And this idea that the aliens that you and Josh write about in your new book, The Day the Earth Stands Still, that it may not be entities coming from another galaxy or another exoplanet. It may be from another dimension. Therefore, this idea that something coming through a portal is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and in one of the broadcast programs, when we talk about the WikiLeaks, their term "contiguous aliens" reflects this idea that they're not coming here from Zeta Reticuli in a clunky little spaceship, right? They're all around us all the time.
Yeah, they see them as parallel universes, and actually, they even say that there are what they call celestials, which is an interesting term, in biblical cosmology. But they call them celestials. But those are the bad guys from other planets. Those are the guys that haven't evolved into obedience to God, which is weird language, but yeah.
But there was a time in antiquity when this was considered, everybody knew it.
Yeah.
Everybody understood what the Lamassu were and what the Cherubim were, and they understood that there were beings that not everybody could see, but they were all around us. We've lost touch with that.
Well, that's why in the programs, right?
I set you
That's
up for
why
that.
we're giving these away
Yes.
free,
Yeah.
right, with the Saboteurs package, because both of these books, especially the one, The Devils and Evil Spirits of Babylonia, which is what the Collins Elite. Maybe in our next webcast we should tell people who the Collins Elite
Oh,
are.
we should.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the Fallen Angels and the Heroes of Mythology. Deluxe, hardback, can't get them anywhere else, and your library is not complete unless you have them.
And stuff like that is what I have used for source material in writing the Red Wing Saga, because I want to understand what the scholars of the time, what they believed.
Yeah, and those books both published late 18th, early 19th
Yeah.
century.
Right.
So this is bringing back stuff that's more or less been out of print for almost a full century.
Yes.
So yeah, phenomenal stuff. We're going to stop at this point because we could continue on for another hour or so on this topic, but rather than give it all to you in one chunk, we're going to be rolling these out over the course of the entire month on a daily basis just about. So we're going to stop at this point and come back tomorrow as we continue our discussion about the new book, Saboteurs by Tom Horn, with our panel, Tom Horn, Josh Peck, Sharon K. Gilbert. I'm Derek Gilbert. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.
The Trump administration is now vowing to crack down and punish deep state saboteurs.
Today, America is being manipulated through a Washington-based shadow government.
This is a war now, the deep state against you and the President of the United States.
The artificial chaos engineered by elites and advanced by enemies of democracy is being propagandized by a devoted media machine to take down President Trump.
I submit to you that the establishment that you talk about, the so-called deep state, exists on both sides, the left and the right, and President Trump is up against both of them.
But this is not the whole story. A much more sinister quest behind the deep state is at work to usher in a final world order.
He's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. You know, he hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society. He didn't belong to the secret society. The secret society.
They're trying to cheat you out of the future and the future that you want. They're trying to cheat you out of the leadership you want.
Globalists, secret societies, and world power brokers anticipate the insidious arrival of a messianic strongman they call the Gray Champion. Now, for the first time ever, expert on occultism and best-selling author Dr. Thomas Horn joins a senior analyst from the Pentagon and a retired police detective to bring you the shocking truth behind an ancient cabal, almost too fantastic to believe.
If these forces are successful, this country will not survive.
They have a plan for your future, but you can know their secret and stop them in their tracks. Get ready, Saboteurs, how secret deep state occultists are manipulating American society toward a final world order.
America is being manipulated by sinister occult forces and a Washington-based shadow government. But now, for the first time ever, expert on occultism and best-selling author Dr. Thomas Horn is joined by senior analyst from the Pentagon, Colonel Bob McGinnis, and retired police detective Carl Gallups to expose these nefarious forces. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the Saboteurs Collection. When you order the new books, Saboteurs, Gods and Thrones, and The Deeper State from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive free of charge for a limited time the exclusive oversized hardback collector editions of the classic 2-volume set, The Devils and Evil Spirits of Babylonia, and The Fallen Angels and the Heroes of Mythology. These two timeless masterpieces, finally in print again after 100 years, are the perfect gift for the scholar or Bible student in your life, and hold a retail value of over $60 all by themselves, but are included absolutely free when you purchase the limited time Saboteurs collection. But that's not all. You'll also receive the never-before-aired DVD Off the Record, featuring exclusive interviews with Dr. Thomas Horn, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, and Detective Carl Gallups, further exposing the dark secrets of globalist elites and how to stop them in their tracks.
This content is only available in this exclusive offer and will not be aired anywhere else. Finally, you'll also receive The Shadow Hand, the over 24-hour Steve Quayle and Tom Horn definitive audio series on CD. This audio collection discloses the terrifying truth behind the infamous WikiLeaks dumps, the shadow government, and so much more. This unprecedented special offer sold separately holds a retail value of over $175. Yours now for only $29.99 plus shipping and handling. The holiday gift season is coming, and you won't find this collection anywhere else. So don't delay. Order the Saboteurs collection for somebody you love now at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985.